Now, a few years ago, I started digging out behind the cabin here and dug this out so that I could slide the cabin back a little ways and then put an addition onto it and get it back where I had a little bit more room for a porch on the front and clearance to get the airplane up and down the driveway and get it in and out of the hangar. And then I decided that I needed to be working on the airplane and concentrating on it. So like a lot of other things, it got partway done and didn't get finished. We had my water tank up there on the bank so you could get some gravity flow out of it into the pump. Actually, over this summer, we had so much rain that bank softened up, and then the last rainstorm we had here about a week ago, it just undermined the tank underneath this side of it, and the tank slid off the bank there and exploded. So we don't have a water tank. We're running a hose down here now from the water tank up at the house. So we've got water in the cabin. But that kind of made it necessary for me to do something down here. I've got to do something to get water into the cabin here. I've already got started digging that out, so I think I'm going to dig it out some more. And I've got those 2 yellow cedar timbers I'll put underneath there. We'll jack that cabin up and get it, because it's just setting on blocks on the ground right now. So I'll put some pilings in here, get them down below the frost line, and get that thing set up so that it's stable. Get some gravel hauled in here in this hole. Well, here's what's left of my water tank. It didn't survive the fall. We got to get a different water tank set up here. So that's the projects that we got going on now. That's what I've been working on here, getting that lumber cut up so I could get it out of the way to get to that yellow cedar timber to get it cut. Just one more little project. I don't know where the last place I took a video of this was. Weather's been so crappy here, I haven't wanted to get the cameras out or anything. We had over 6 inches of rain over the weekend. I got that dug out back there and dug the bank out back a ways. And then because I didn't want bank sloughing off into the workable area there, it probably would have been all right. This material here is muddy, but it doesn't slough too bad. But anyway, I got some of these concrete blocks to put in there for a retaining wall to hold that stuff back and kind of define that a little better. We dug that all down to hard pan, which is about anywhere from 2 feet, a foot to 2 feet deep, and then had 20 yards of 6-inch minus brought in here and filled that up and brought it up level, or nearly level, close to level. Anyway, I got that in there, compacted that in, packed that in with the machine, and then got the blocks here and built a little retaining wall there. Got some fabric up to separate the mud bank, and then we've got a load of 1-inch washed rock, drain rock coming, 5 yards, be here sometime this afternoon. I was afraid we weren't going to be able to get it done. This weather has just been crazy. We had, like I said, the last 3 or 4 days we've had over 6-7 inches of rain. 30-40 mile an hour winds, typical fall weather here. So I got out all my wet weather gear and got to working on it, and we got these blocks all planted here. So I got to stake down that fabric, and then we'll get the drain rock put in between it and the wall. Right now we've got just a garden hose running from the outlet up in the bathhouse from the big water tank up at the house down here to supply water into the cabin. I got to get that unhooked right now because it goes across the driveway here. Get it unhooked and out of the way so that dump truck can get back in here with a load of rock and get it put in there. Once I get that load of rock in there, I'll get a load of sand and put down, and then we'll be able to put that water tank in there and get our water hooked back up. And I suppose once I get the water tank in there empty and get it all hooked up, it probably won't rain again for the rest of the winter. I've been worrying about getting it done because, like I said, it was rained heavy the last 3 or 4 days. It was supposed to snow this morning, but it cleared up and it frosted this morning. It's chillier now. It's still got snow forecast as well as cold weather. So that's a problem with this garden hose, of course, is it gets cold and it freezes up. So we got to disconnect it at night. Try to get that water line all hooked up in there and set up so we can have water. We're still working on this retaining wall back here to get the water tank put up. And we got the wall all in. And then I ordered some drain rock and we've been backfilling around the wall with the drain rock. Now, I put fabric up. It's kind of a felt ground fabric, construction fabric that goes up, and that went down, and I put it underneath the blocks and then up over the mud bank there, and that filters the water. The water will run through that, but the mud won't, and so that filters the water out as it comes down, and it'll come into the drain rock and then drain out around that. I was going to try to put a drain tile or drain pipe in there. I've got some 2-inch drain pipe I was going to run around there, but the blocks are actually too close to the bank there. At one point the bank slid in and right up tight against the blocks in one point, so I couldn't get that in there, but the drain rock will be fine. I ordered 5 yards of drain rock day before yesterday, and they delivered it late in the day. It was dark by the time they delivered it, so I couldn't do anything with it. Hauled it around yesterday and filled up behind that block yesterday, but it wasn't quite enough. Well, I should have had about 7 or 8 yards instead, so I got another 5 yards. Again, they delivered that last night. Too late to do anything with it. But yesterday when I got done with moving that drain rock around there, what I had, we loaded up the Bobcat onto the dump trailer and went out to a sand pit to get a load of sand. I'm going to use sand and put down on the underneath that tank to cushion it between the hard rocks there and the foam that I'm going to put down to keep the tank from getting cut up in the rocks. So that's the way the project's going so far. We had a hard time getting the sand yesterday. It's down in a hole in a pit, and we've had 7 inches of rain in 2 days out there, and there was a big washout down in that. I couldn't get down into the pit. I wound up trying to build a road down there to it with the Bobcat, going down the steep hill with the bucket in the front and then trying to get back out of it with the bucket in the front, building that road. All the weight winds up on the front tires, and the rear tires spin in the sand. Didn't get stuck or anything, and I wound up scraping up enough sand to get a load and bring home. But while we were doing that yesterday, it started snowing. It didn't stick, but we had a pretty good snowstorm. Temperatures dropped now today, and it's spitting snow pretty good. It's not sticking or anything, and it's not snowing, it's just spitting a little bit of snow. Oh, it's supposed to do that for the next few days. It's supposed to get cold again down into the 20s. I'll get this done and then get that water tank out here and get it set up, and then hopefully it'll warm up again in a few days and start raining again, and maybe we can get some water in that water tank then. So anyway, I'll get busy and get at this, get that rest of that drain rock spread out, and then get some sand down here. Got all the drain rock put in around the back side of the retaining wall, and then I used the excavator and walked this rock back in. It got pretty stirred up from spinning around on that Bobcat in there and stuff. Then we went up and got the sand that we got from the sand pit the other day and spread that out in here on the fill rock. That was mainly just to put in there to act as a buffer between the rough, sharp rocks underneath there and the styrofoam. So I've got some styrofoam in there I laid down, and that tank will sit on that. Now the purpose of the styrofoam is it'll cushion between the bottom of the tank and the sharp rocks and stuff there. It might add a little bit of insulation there between the bottom and the ground, but the ground usually doesn't freeze up underneath the tank. That's 1.5 inch foam. We got it from a crew that put a new roof over the high school, and that was what the roof was on the high school. So it's 1.5 inches of foam, and it's coated with a skim coat of cement. What I got that on there for is I can set that tank on there now. I can put a heat tape on there. The styrofoam will hold the heat up, but the cement layer there on the top of the styrofoam will keep the heat tape from burning the styrofoam. So that's the idea anyway. And then we'll have the heat tape in there, and when it gets really cold, 15 degrees or so, and that tank starts freezing up, we can plug that heat tape in and help keep that tank thawed out. This is what the styrofoam is. You can see it's a styrofoam sheet about 1.5 inches thick, 1 3/4 inches thick, something like that. It's tongue and grooved. They're 2 foot wide by 4 foot long, and then they've got about 1/4 inch or so, 3/8 of an inch, something like that, skim coat of cement on the top of it. This one, it's broken off, so it got rejected. I didn't want that one on there because the heat tape might get down and touch the styrofoam on that. But that's what we put in there. We got a bunch of those. Some of them, the cement is all broken off of, but we sorted through them and found the ones that the cement was still intact on them. Mainly that is just a cushion to hold the tank up off the sharp rocks and stuff, to keep any rocks from penetrating the plastic bottom of the tank when it's full. And it'll also act a little bit as an insulation so that you don't get any heat loss down through it into the ground from the heat tape. But the main thing here was this cement board, or the cement on there, to protect that. So the heat will go up into the tank and it won't burn the plastic. There's quite a few instances of fires started when heat tape was put in and too much insulation around it, and it got too hot and started burning pipes and stuff. So we don't want that to happen. We'll get the tank over there and set up, and I've got my old pipe that came out of the other tank here. I'm going to open that up and see what that I can use. I already know that I'm not going to be able to use the outlets out of the tank, either the broken tank or what I originally had in this tank, as that only goes down to a 3/4 inch faucet that I had in that green tank. In the other tank, I've got a valve on it. I may be able to use it. I don't know whether it's all glued together or not. I have to take it out, but I'm just going to open this pipe up and see how much of this I can use. I'm going to need couplings and stuff to couple it together because it's busted up. See what I can use. And I should be able to come up with enough stuff there to run pipe. It's going to be a lot shorter run than it was before. I'll need some couplings and some elbows, and I'm going to need a fitting to go in that bulkhead there, on that bulkhead fitting on the bottom of that tank. I'm going to fish the outlet valve out of that other tank and see if I can reuse it or not. It's got a busted off piece of pipe in it. I got to see if I can get that out of there or not. Took all the insulation off that pipe and all of the heat tape, all of the electrician's tape that I'd used to put that all together. Checked out that pipe, and except for the places where it broke there in the joints and stuff, the pipe is all still in good shape. There's a few scratches in it here and there, but nothing to render it bad. It's all 1-inch Schedule 80 plastic pipe. I got an end and elbow down on that end that will have to be cut off and a splice put in there. Where it goes underneath the water box there, that end I cut off with the hacksaw, so I can just put a coupling in there and that will be good. And then the other two pieces there are, one of them's got a good elbow in it. It's got about 2 or 3 inches, so I could put a coupling on that or something. And the other one, I'll probably have to cut the couplings off of it, but it got about 4 good feet or 5 good feet of pipe there and 3 good feet of pipe on the other one. So I've got more than enough pipe. Now I got to go take that valve out of the other tank, and it's got a busted off piece of pipe in the end of it. I got to see if I can get it out or not. And if I can't, then I'll have to get a new valve, but I still need to get a new bushing to go in that tank there to reduce down to the size of the valve for the water line. Like I said, that's a 1-inch water line. That looks like a 2-inch bushing out of that tank. I got that ball valve out of that other tank, and it's okay. So I got to see if I can figure out if I can get this broken off stub off out of there or not. And I may actually be okay here, because that bushing does go into a 1-inch nipple before it goes down into reducer to 3/4. So I'll go take that apart. I may only need a couple of fittings. Well, so far this is working out better than I'd hoped, certainly better than I expected. I was able to get that broken off stub out of the valve here, and the valve works just fine. And then I thought I was going to have to get a different bushing, but this bushing goes down to 1 inch, so that's perfect, and this already had a nipple in it that would fit this valve. So I re-gookumpuckied the bushing, and I'll go stick it in there. And it looks like I'll only have to come up with a couple of different couplings, maybe an elbow, maybe a couple elbows and a coupling, and we'll be good. Well, I've got that valve in there now. I could actually start filling that up with water. The cutter's kind of broke on there. I'm going to have to redo those too and figure out a downspout off the roof to run down to feed into that. But it doesn't make any difference today because it's snowing. It's just a skiff of snow out. It'd be dripping a little bit, but we're not getting enough rain or enough moisture to make any difference on it anyhow right now. But anyway, that's good news. That's together. And if I go dig through my stash pile, I may even find couplings for that. I'll have to go see. Digging through my plumbing box, I did find a 1 inch elbow, threaded elbow, but I didn't find any couplings or any glue-on elbows. So we're going to need to go to town and get a coupling to hook up that standpipe up into the water box there. I'll have to get a nipple to come out of that valve and another elbow and maybe another coupling. Anyway, got to go to town and get some supplies there to finish hooking that up. But actually it turned out pretty good. You don't have to buy any pipe or valves or anything, so all that's good. I went to town and got some fittings put this pipe together and stuff. That took an hour. Try to get this together before it gets dark here now. We only got about an hour left of daylight. The sun goes down, gets dark about 4 o'clock now. So we only got about 7 hours of daylight a day. So anyway, got about 45 minutes left of daylight here. I'll see if I can't get that pipe all hooked up, plumbing all hooked up on it. What we do here is I've got a gutter up there on the cabin roof. We only got it on half of it, and that's been plenty. But we run the gutter up there and then downspout off of it down into the water tank. And of course, we got this little add-on back to the cabin back here that's got a pump in it and a water heater and stuff. So we just, that's how we get our water. Anyway, we're getting water in the tank. Alright, well, we're finishing up here now on this. I originally bought that heat tape. I was originally just going to put it underneath the tank, put several coils underneath there, and once I got it laying out, I decided just to run a circle around there near the outside perimeter of that tank, and then go ahead and run it down the pipe here. It's not quite long enough to run all the way down the pipe, so I'm going to have to get another short heat tape to run on the pipe. From the water box down. But this is going to work. I've got that wrapped around the shut-off valve there. That's one of the places where it freezes up, and around that bushing where the water comes out of that tank into the water line, down that elbows and down to the long run of that pipe. So on the long run of that pipe, I'll just run it straight down the pipe on the underside of it there, and then the heat goes up into the pipe. That seems to work fine. We'll get it wrapped up with some electrician's tape and get it tied in there. Well, we did good here yesterday. I got that tank sat up and plumbed in, and that works good. We had water in the house, in the cabin there for the first time last night for a while. We've been running water down in a garden hose from the bathhouse down here to hook into the cabin. It comes from a 10,000 gallon or 12,000 gallon tank we have up at the house, but the garden hose is kind of limited to what the flow was on it, and we had to unhook it at night and some of the daytime because of freezing temperatures. It would freeze up. So now I've got the tank hooked up, set up there. I've got the heat taped underneath it to keep the tank from freezing up, and the line. It was freezing all day yesterday, and it was supposed to get down to 20 degrees last night, but I don't think it ever got that cold. We got about an inch of snow overnight. It had been spitting snow off and on all day yesterday and the day before. We got snow stuck up above about 800 feet elevation, but nothing down here. But overnight we got about an inch of snow, just a little skiff of snow. It's supposed to warm up now. It has warmed up now. The sun just came out. Anyway, the snow is melting off the roof and off of some of the other things, so that's good news. Well, I did run about the garden hose down here from the upper tank at the house and put about 300 gallons, maybe 400 gallons of water in that tank there, so that's enough to get us by for a while. So I've got to work on my gutters. I've got to take the gutter down and see if I have a replacement for it and get it set up so we can run a downspout down and run water into that tank. So that's the project of the day-to-day. I'll have to get the ladder out and climb up there. Not sure I really want to get up on the roof. That other little building right there is a granary. That's a shed that I built for my wife's chicken feed. And it's shaded, so it's got snow on it, a tin roof, a metal roof. I'm not sure I want to get up on that doggone thing and try to wrestle with that gutter up there. So I'll got to go dig out a ladder and dig out some odds and ends and whatnot and see what I can figure out on running that gutter down. I got a new section of gutter up there. I didn't need to get up on the roof. I put those roof jacks up there anyway and put a board up there, and I did lean on it, but I didn't get up on the roof. I moved the ladder, took it around to the other side and stuck it in there and climbed up on it, and then I did kind of sit on the roof while I worked on that. I've got the collection point, the terminal there where the water collects and runs down the downspout, and an elbow on that. I'm going to wait to put the downspout in until I figure out what I'm going to do with this inlet into the water tank. I've got an idea now of what I need to do with what's going on there. And I'll have to get bushing to fit in that bung there on that top, and then some adapters and stuff, and run to I suppose probably 3-inch or maybe a 4-inch bushing on there for to transfer over to 1.5-inch to 3-inch or 4-inch for that to sit in, and I'll run it straight up instead of an angle like that one is. I'll probably put some kind of a T in there someplace so that I have a place to drain the excess water out of the tank so that it doesn't come up and just come out and blow the top off of that or something. So, well, I've kind of figured out what I'm going to do now. Pretty much got it figured out. Looking around through everything, I found a piece that has a 4-inch an adapter on it that goes from 2-inch to 4-inch with a section of 2-inch pipe on it already made up. And I went to town and went through what they had there and figured out what to do on that. So I'm going to go ahead and get that put together. We'll get it done now. It's getting cold. The sun has disappeared for the day. It's 2:30. The sun has disappeared for the day here, and we've only got about an hour and a half of daylight left. So try to get this done while it's still daylight. Before it gets too cold, temperature's already starting to drop. Pretty much finishes up this water tank installation. That's good. I'm happy now. Well, it's supposed to warm up and rain this week, so we should get some rain in there, and then it's going to be iffy back and forth between rain and snow now through the rest of the winter. But boy, if I'd had that thing set up last week, we got over 6 inches or 7 inches of rain in 3 days there, 2 days, so that would have filled that tank up. I got about 400 gallons or so in it now that we took down from the tank up at the house, so that'll last us for a while. And I can always put more in from the tank up at the house if it doesn't freeze up. Anyway, that's set up. We got water running to the house, and when it rains, we'll get water running into the tank. Hoorah! Okay, there's a picture of the setup, what I've got now. You can see the standpipe going down into the tank there with the 4-inch bushing there on the top, or reducer, adapter, expander, whichever one it goes. And then the downspout coming into it there. Only thing left to do is to run a standoff off of that drain pipe down to the ground. But I don't think I really need it to hold it up. I don't think that's going to weigh that much that I need it to hold it up. I just want it to go down the ground so it doesn't splash so bad when the water runs out of it. All we need now is some rain. Now that it's all set up and ready, probably won't rain for the rest of the year. I'm done with my water tank installation. Hurrah, hurrah. Oh, I've had it hooked up for a couple days and we've been using it, and it's been real nice to have the tank there hooked up to use it, not have to unhook it at night, because it has been well below freezing, down to 25 degrees or so at night, -2 or 3, something like that. And when we were using the tank with the garden hose, the big tank from the house, and running the water down with the garden hose, we'd have to disconnect it at night because the water line would freeze up. So this didn't freeze up, even though I didn't have heat tape on the whole thing. I had it around the pipes and I had heat tape underneath part of it, and it didn't freeze up at all, so it worked out really good. Oh, anyway, I got it finished today. Now yesterday I put the downspout on, hooked up, put on a new piece of gutter that was broken, and put the downspout on and figured out the catch system on there. I had another short heat tape. I finished up putting that heat tape on, run it there from the ground where the other one, let's see where we at, there it is. Where the other one ended, you can see where the orange cord comes out there. That's where the one ended that goes along that line and underneath the tank. So I had to get another heat tape and run from there up to the bottom of the pump house box. I got that done, and I got the insulation all wrapped around everything real good. I doubled up the insulation on the ground portion of it, and I got that all real good. Got the outlet there on the tank, the valve and everything there insulated real good. Again, the heat tape goes all around that valve and stuff so it won't freeze up. And the last thing I needed to do was put my downpipe in. Oh, I got to scrounging around yesterday out in scrap piles and stuff, and I found a stick of 2-inch pipe that had been broken used. It had come off of something else, and it was long enough to cut to fit up in there for that downpipe. So I got it cut and put in there. Now it's not glued into that elbow because it doesn't need to be. It's just to direct the water down to keep it from splashing all over everything. And at some point in time I may want to redo that and hook it up into a drain pipe or something so that it doesn't just spill water out here on the ground. Yeah, that's good. Now all we got to do is wait for some rain, and it's warmed up today. It's already up to, I don't know, 38 degrees or so today. It's supposed to warm up and maybe snow a little bit this afternoon, and then start raining for a couple days, and then get cold again, and then start raining again. Anyway, hopefully we'll get enough warm weather, enough rain to fill that tank up and get it up to where we don't have to worry about running out of water. Anyway, I'm happy there. That tank, the welds that I put in it are holding up good. There's no sign of any leakage out of it. All the lines are glued together good. There's no leaks in any of the lines. I got it all heat taped up and insulated, and new gutter so the water should flow down in there good. Life is good as long as electricity doesn't go out when it's 15 degrees or 0 degrees. A little addendum onto the water tank installation. It's been about 3 weeks since we hooked that water tank up and got it all set up. When I got it all set up there, I brought the hose down and put about 400 gallons of water in it from the big tank up at the house. And we've had rain and then cold and freezing weather, dry weather, and then snow and rain and whatnot. Well, anyway, I checked it about a week ago and I had 650 gallons in there, even though we've been using it pretty steady. Well, I checked it day before yesterday, and that thing is completely full. And we had about probably 13 or 14 inches of rain in the last 5 or 6 days. Anyway, the tank is full. We don't have to worry about running out of water in it in the foreseeable future, unless the line breaks or something. Like I said, we had about 14, 15 inches of rain in the last few days. It's raining today again. It's supposed to get 3/4 of an inch to an inch. But one of the things we did get was some big wind. We had 40, 50 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour gusts here for 3 or 4 days. The early part of this week, and a tree came down here. It's over the neighbor's property there. The neighbor is the state of Alaska. They're trying to trade that to the U.S. Forest Service. Well, anyway, a tree off of their land came down, and I had that big tank right there, that big red rusty tank. That's a 2,000 gallon fuel tank that I've been storing here for a friend of mine. He had used it for an avgas tank at the airport when he was running an air taxi service there. My wife and my son told me I needed to move that so it didn't fall down on anything, but it had been sitting there for about 15 years and it was pretty well set in. Well, you can see it's moved now, but that tree came down and it came right across this end of that tank and it broke there. If it hadn't come down and hit that tank, it would have hit the corner of the cabin and probably punctured a hole and crushed the water tank there, so that kind of saved her bacon there. Big old hemlock. Anyway, that's the update. We've got plenty of water in there now, and it doesn't look like we're going to run out anytime soon because the forecast for the next 7 or 8 days is an inch of rain a day about. Anyway, that's better than icy weather and snow. We can get up and down the driveway here now. All the ice is gone off the driveway.